Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dreamweavers podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And today, filling in for Deanna again, we have the beautiful and lovely Kim Mo. Hi, Kim. Thanks for being
Hello.
here.
Hi, everybody.
And today, as our beautiful guest, we have the incredible Brandilyn. Hi, doll. How you doing, beautiful?
I'm good. How are you all? Nice to
Groovy.
meet everybody.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. I'm really excited for you to be here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. How's
Thank
every
you.
Thank you. How's everybody feeling today? How we doing? Still a little check-in. How we feeling?
The energies
Doing
are quite different for me, so just integrating so doing pretty good though. Pretty good.
doing
How
pretty
about
good. Same here. Rolling with the energies, rolling with with life. So
Okay, so I think we're all talking about the energy thing going on. What is happening out there? Anybody got any ideas? I think Kim and I were talking about it. We think it has something to do with the Lion's portal. How about you?
definitely. There's a lot of big energies going on right now with a lot of, especially with the Lionsgate portal, but we also have like what I think six planetary or astrological beings in retrograde at the moment, which gives us quite a bit of chaos and things going on in the energies too. So, Mercury retrograde, gotta love it.
I think you said there were a few other planets in retrograde. Which ones did you mention again?
There's for sure Saturn and Neptune, which are conjunct. I believe they're still conjunct in the beginning degrees of Aries. Um, And then we have Pluto, which is in Aquarius, that's also retrograde for the next, I think, 6-ish months. And then Chiron just went retrograde. I believe that's also in Aries. Um, and yeah, so we've got a lot of big stuff going on. Plus, Mercury being in Leo. I mean, I don't, depending on if you know your astrological chart, knowing the signs can be important for houses for your own personal astrological research. So, but yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot going on in the air.
Well, that explains it
Interesting.
then, Kim.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, how do you find all this information? This is very fascinating to me. I think it enough to where I want to just kind of look into this and kind of educate myself a little bit. Do you teach anything like that, or is that something you're just looking at on your own and just learning that way? Or
It's something that I do research for my own purposes. I mainly like to research out of curiosity and out of like trying to figure out how everything works in my own personal chart and kind of digesting all of that. I use a few different resources. Probably the best ones I could recommend would be astroseek.com, astro-seek.com. There is a dash. If you put in AstroSeek, you will get one that's just AstroSeek. That's not the one I'm talking about. That one's great for finding your birth chart, and it gives you a really good rundown of what the houses mean, what the certain astrological points mean, whether they be a planet or a star or a point, um, and how that interprets for you. And interpretations are never like set in stone. It's just more of like the energy of what could be, the possibilities of what they could be. And honestly, with all the things that we have in our charts, it takes a long time just to even go through your own chart. And that in and of itself, which is what I've been doing, is researching based on my own chart to get a further understanding of how the whole thing works. Some things to keep in mind, though, is that there are several different types of astrology. We have whole sign astrology, which is what most people like. If you indulge in any content, astrological content, and they do like daily horoscopes or anything like that, they usually go off of your rising sign. Your
Hmm.
rising sign is the sign that was on the horizon in the east with the rising sun the moment you're born. So the sign, the rising sign, where the sun on the eastern horizon, I believe is what it is. Um, so that really puts the basis in for your whole chart. And that would be for any system. Most systems or most websites will use what's called Placidus or tropical. And that's the one that is probably the most well known. And then there's sidereal. I never pronounce that correct. Or Vedic astrology, which is more based on where the placements are currently in the sky. And tropical astrology or Placidus are not based on what's going on up in the heavens currently. It's based on the way the light angles at it. I can't explain it very well because I'm not an astrologer, but some things to keep in mind when you're
Very
researching for
interesting.
yourself.
What
Wow,
was the
very
next to
interesting.
last one you said? Vedic?
Vedic, yeah, Vedic
Vedic.
astrology, which is I believe it is based in it was it's probably the oldest type of astrology that we know of that's been practiced. And it's I think it's real, please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it comes um from India, from the Hindu religion, the Hindu beliefs, and it's thousands upon thousands of years old. And it's completely different as far as placements go and how they understand it, and how they interpret it versus what we normally use, which would be Placidus slash tropical astrology, is what most people are familiar with.
I was going to say because that's the one that I just recently got introduced to was Vedic. Vedic? Vedic.
Vedic. I'm
Vedic?
not good with pronunciations. I think it's Vedic. I
Okay.
could
All
be
right, then
wrong.
I could be too. I'm unsure. So yeah. Alrighty. Well, so what's been going on with you as of late? So let's go backwards before we get to what's going on with you now. How did you get to where you are now? How'd you learn all of this amazing information about astrology?
Oh, well, curiosity, research. You know, I've been looking into it for a really long time, of course. I think I started what most people started, which is your daily horoscope in the newspaper or in like back in the day, Cosmopolitan magazine or whatever there
Yeah.
was. I mean, the
I
your
might remember
typical.
that one.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that was based off my sun sign, which is Aquarius. And I had a very, very basic understanding of what astrology was at that point. And I, was still like, oh, it's just the sun sign, and that's the only one. No, that's not it. And as time went on, I just became more curious. And I follow a lot of people on social media that have a lot of astrological content, different types of astrology, because no matter what website or what resource you might use, the interpretations are going to vary depending on who is relaying that information and who is interpreting it. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. So this rabbit hole is quite long. So I've been on it for a while. And, I started with cafe astrology, where I would look at my birth chart or look up other people's birth charts and do even comparisons with birth charts. And then I moved to a website called 12andus.com. And I love their interpretations as well. AstroSeek is great as well. I've used a few different apps. I think, let's see what this one is. It is Astromatrix is a really good one. That one will give you real-time updates as far as when the moon and the sun and everything moves from one sign to another, and that's always interesting. And they'll even give you notifications for how it's aspecting your chart too. So it's
Okay.
pretty good stuff.
Wow.
If you're interested in astrology, I highly recommend looking into your own chart and reading all there is to know about your chart and go from there.
So
Follow your.
is that all you do is just kind of play around with astrology?
Not really, no. I've spent a lot of time in other types of circles. Um, I mean, as some of you are well aware, I was floating around in the QHHT quantum hypnosis group there for a while. I had worked with several practitioners and other marketing professionals in that field, and I learned a lot about different metaphysical topics and just lots of different conversations that led to an aspiration for more curiosity in my life and rolling those concepts around with other people and within myself and in my own life. So I think that basis, when I spent time in those circles, really gave me a wonderful base for understanding of universal topics that are related to the metaphysical. So kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, we've been talking about that lately, Ronnie, and many of us, we all have little pieces of this, a lot of many different modalities and different things. It's like, what do you call yourself? And Ronnie come up with a perfect word, and I'll let her say it because this came from her. So go right
It
ahead.
didn't come from me. Yeah, that's not mine. I wish I could take credit for some of this stuff, Kim. Integrative healing practitioner is my new thing because that's exactly what we do is we integrate all these healing modalities and we're just a practitioner that gets to bring it forth. And you know where I got that from, Brandy? I literally got it from doing this podcast. Be
Nice.
because, like, seriously, so many people were saying the same thing, and I kept feeling myself kind of shift and evolve to that too. But we've had these conversations where, like, people are Reiki, people are this, people do quantum hypnotherapy. Some are just hypnotherapists, right? Maybe they kind of play in the quantum, maybe maybe not. I
Yeah.
don't know. Everybody has their thing. Some are mediums, but then there's so many people who have a little bit of all this, and then they have a handful of all these modalities. And when you just come and sit in front of like Kim and you say, "Hey, I need help." And she's like, "Okay, well, what kind of help do you need today?" Or where do we begin? What comes in, and I'm sure you know this, what comes in, we start getting all these messages, we start getting all this information, and maybe you came for just some chakra healing, right? Let's have a conversation with your mom who's on the other side. That's
Yeah.
what I'm hearing that we need to go into, which goes, of course, as we all know, into inner child work, right? So, what do you call a person like that?
I
And
guess I've
in a
always called myself an eclectic spiritualist.
Mm,
Hey, I love that.
yeah, that was
Oh
awesome.
my gosh, I love that. An eclectic spiritualist. Oh my God, that's beautiful and fabulous. I love that.
That has a lot
Well,
of sparkles with it.
yes, right? I agree. It does. Any,
Spirit fingers.
I'm actually gonna,
I know. I'm gonna have to go back
I
and
might
listen, write
that
that
one.
down. That's very good. Very good.
Eccentric spiritualist. I'm still writing it down.
Eclectic. It's eclectic because it's like a
Hectic.
mixed bag of everything, you know? It's like a little bit of everything. I mean,
You're right. I'm the
I
eccentric one.
I came up with that one when I was really trying to pin down what I would call myself because I mean, I would probably more associate with the common phrase of being called a witch or something, or like a new age practitioner. I'm not really a practitioner because I don't really have any services, really. I mean, I can do tarot readings and things like that, but it's like I'm not an atheist and I'm not I mean, I might be, a bit agnostic and stuff like that, but I'm still very spiritual and I can bring all of these different things together. So it's like, it's pretty eclectic, it's kind of like gotta add in a little bit of everything because we all take pieces of things that we've, all of these types of groups that we've been in or different practices that we've learned through different communities we've been a part of. throughout our lives, and we all take bits and pieces of that stuff with us. So why not allow it to count, even though we're still gonna go that way?
That's true. You just take all these pieces with you and you just create your own, package.
Yeah,
And you're right, we
absolutely.
should take it with us. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yes, that's how I came up with integrative healing practitioner. I don't know, it's what came to me. So,
I love that. That's a good one.
so are you still doing QHHT?
I am not currently. I've thought about getting back into it. It's been a little while for me though, so I'd have to I'd have to get back into practicing to do actual sessions and stuff. Probably spent way more time promoting people who did QHHT than I did actually doing any QHHT. So, you know,
Okay.
thought about
All
it.
right. Oh, well, let me know when you're ready.
All right.
Let me know when you're ready. So then what do people have to look forward from you? What's coming for you soon?
I don't know. I guess you could probably look forward to me sharing more about my journey, more about the things that I've learned about. I don't share a lot of stuff on social media these days because I've spent a lot more time focusing on myself and my own healing and my journey and expanding that, and also my kids and my life, my 3D life, and
What?
um,
You got a life? What?
I know, right? What's up with that?
I thought you were just here for me, Brandy.
Right now I am.
Great
Well, we are
answer.
so thankful you are here. We are very, very thankful for coming on too. So,
I'm so
yeah,
grateful that you guys invited me. Thank you.
I think we all take a step back and have to do our, and you get a lot of information, a lot of things that come in, and then you have to take a step back and just integrate all that. It changes you. We change every single day. So trying to integrate that, I did the same thing. I did a lot of stuff in the last 2 years, and then I just took a break. I just needed to find me again, and the new me, with all that. So kudos to you. And yeah, and it's hard when you have kids too, trying to balance between everything. So
Yeah.
you
It
had
is
So
a lot.
mentioned, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Nope, go ahead.
You mentioned water at one time, and I feel very called to that right now. Like I've really, delved into, the earth and all that kind of stuff. I'm just being drawn to, and it's been mentioned about the Lion's Gate that you have to do a lot of rinsing with water, getting the water and this kind of thing. So I know I've seen you in the past, bringing up the water, and it was just fascinating. Can you speak a little bit about that and what that is about? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a while since I've discussed that topic. And I think you're referring to the TikTok that I had made, that I had had a lot of, it probably, I can't even just call it a single download because it was something that had, it was information that had transpired over a period of time. It was not easy, um, with getting this information. I went through a very intense ego death and very intense process. We'll just call it that. Um, but through this experience, through this extremely overwhelming download process that I had gone through. And this was probably through the months of December and January, and had really connected with the spirit of water in regards to how water, and to an extent other elements, because it turned into, later on actually including all of the elements and other types of celestial beings and other things, other energies that came into play in the, not the conclusion because it's still going. But since then it has evolved from, it being this fantastic mirror. So when we look at water, and we think about water, most of the time we think about a stream or the river or a glass of water or the ocean or the rain, maybe a lake. We don't really think about the water that is constantly in and around us, that we are literally swimming inside of. It's around us all the time, and it's within us. Uh, the study that was done on water and how water interacts with how it responds to certain words and the
Mm-hmm.
vibration of those certain words. There's been studies done on how water retains memory. It's encoded with certain types of information. Um, and it's one of the oldest substances known to man. And it is also one of the very basic building blocks for life on this planet, specifically human life.
Mm-hmm.
And when, taking the physical properties of water, and I'd like to add in the more metaphysical understandings of water as it relates to possibly like tarot and things like that and other occult practices. So, water represents emotion, water represents flow, water represents um, the feminine. It also, its characteristics when you talk about it in regards to metaphysical natures. It's a very feminine being. I very much call her her. Water is a being to me now, versus it being just a thing that we consider as a tool or something that we drink or bathe in or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it made me think about how everything that water has witnessed, and when I talk about everything, I mean the things that it has witnessed in regards to humanity, and from the very beginning to the current. And when we understand that water responds to words, responds to emotions, retains memory, and is also that representation of emotion, and is a very feminine element, it dawned on me that water has witnessed so much that we've experienced right alongside with us, but without that filter of forgetfulness that we experience when we come here to this plane and live our lives as humans. But the impact that we have goes far beyond the veil of this one existence that we have experienced in this life, whether that be a life that we have lived previously. I say that quotes because it's all happening all at the same time, as you know.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so then we then can see how water might also be encouraging us to work through generational and familial traumas that we have had passed down through our bloodlines, which is what? Water within us.
Hmm.
That is, that it, I mean, we share a womb with our mother,
Right.
we share her womb, but our children also share her womb when they are within us, especially being feminine. Having a uterus and ovaries, when you're forming in the womb of your mother, your eggs are forming in her ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
And that blood is passed down with the memory. I mean, we all know that generational trauma is passed down, and it's not conscious trauma. Might not necessarily be because of something that we experienced in our lives with our parents or our grandparents, but could be a reflection of something that happened in the past that was not dealt with. And I think that this can be correlated with things like hypnosis sessions. When we talk about past lives, we talk about the past experiences that we've had with the souls that we share our lives with today, and how that's impacting us now. And so all those energetic cords and all of those lines that we have had come through us water is like, we haven't processed that. That's been
Never.
dammed up.
Yeah, I've
And
never thought about it from that direction. So that's why I wanted to ask you because it's totally different perspective than I've ever even thought about thinking about. So that's
thank
totally
you.
awesome. I want to look into that now. You got me on a rabbit hole that I want to go down and
I
review
have a
it.
question. By processed, explain that one. How does water process?
Water processes well,
'Cause does it feel? I mean, or does
absolutely.
it just cause feelings?
I
Or
think that
maybe a
water,
combo thereof?
I think that it's both because, I mean, you look at how water, let's take the ocean, for example. Water is not alone in processing the things that come into the water, right? So it has things like, the earth and other creatures to help process those things. So when we talk about us processing our emotions, we too have tools to help us process our emotions and the what I call the muck in the mud of life. Sometimes we get pollutants in the water, and things like reeds and grasses really help to purify water from the lands as they go into streams. Um, Other grasses and mosses and other types of things inside waterways will help purify water as well. There's also creatures that will eat or consume types of things in the water that would not necessarily would not mean it's healthier for the water, but it provides something for something else to thrive, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it can be a very beautiful symphony of healing when you bring in all the different parts you know, of everything that's around it, because water by itself, yes, water creates a lot of life. It's got a lot of things in it. Water can also release things by you know, um, having it go deep down in the bottom and holding it for a while until it's been able to decompose and decay, and it washes it away and mixes it all up with everything else so that it can get oxygenated and it can get aerated and it can get distributed so that it's not blocking up just certain airways, or certain waterways, you know what I mean? Um, so I think that it's just a good representation of how we can manifest that purification process within us using what we have at our disposal and what's supposed to be working with us in our lives in order to take out that which isn't serving us anymore. So I really see us as not just water beings, but as kind of like plants. You know what I mean? We're really, that meme, just really complicated house plants, you know? I fully believe
I
that.
I haven't seen that, but I think that's funny.
Yeah, we're all connected. We're everything and everything is us. So, I mean, really, that is very true. You just
Right.
change the perspective of how you look at it. It brings up that water because I've been working a lot with the cells and the atoms and the molecules creating flow, but I feel like I now need to make sure I add water into that because we are mostly made of water, that we have in our bodies, and then blessing the water and, as you drink it, giving it love, so that you get nourished with that love instead of the frustration that you have when you're just getting your water, that you just put into the water that you just don't realize you do. So fascinating.
Right. Definitely charge your water. Definitely. And it can be just as simple as acknowledging the sentience of your water. Because I firmly believe that water is sentient. I
Hmm.
mean, it carries all these properties and it's seen all of these things. And when we connect with water as a being, as an energy, I think it's very distinct. And just like when you connect with the earth as a being, or connect with the sun, or connect with the moon, depending on how you believe that, because some people believe it's still, not real, but that's okay. And things like the air and the wind, even thunderstorms and lightning,
Mm.
volcanoes, fire, just the most simple, seemingly simple things have that sentience to it, whether we see it or not. I think we all, as people who are interested in the metaphysical, we all seem to understand this idea, this notion that everything has some type of sentience to it. It has some form of understanding and recollection, and it has an experience, even if it's just a rock.
True, very true. I feel very connected to rocks, literally. Not many people talk about rocks, and I
I
can go
love
down a
them.
road, go down to that, but I just absolutely love rocks. And I know it sounds crazy, but even just being outside, I'll go kick a rock. I just feel like it's calling me saying, I want to move to somewhere different. And so I'll kick a rock, just like as you did as a child, and so that's, not many people understand that. So I don't know if you ladies kind of get that feel sometimes, but I feel like they're talking to me sometimes and just, I'm there to help them just like they're there to help me. And
Mine is
Yeah.
trees.
I love trees.
I'm the person who just sees a beautiful tree and walks up and hugs it. Mine is trees. I find beauty in rocks. I do find beauty in rocks. They don't call to me the same way that they call to people I know, like you. I was gonna say, Brandy, something that came when you were talking about all this water stuff. I think the scientist in me got super like da 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 da, because all they kept saying, or all they kept, I don't know what it was, but anyway, what kept coming to me was water is the universal solvent.
That's
And
true.
in
Yeah.
in the science world, we have to sometimes remember that the water is the universal solvent.
Hmm.
And as you were talking about all this, that's what I kept hearing or kept coming to me. I don't know if it was a hearing or kind of a resonating. It's more of a resonating than it was anything else. But yeah, water, water is a universal solvent. So I think I agree with you. It's a little bit of both. It definitely has that a little bit of sentient to it. And then, yeah, it can also wash all the things away.
Yes, absolutely. It can
Can,
also be very explosive too, and it's also very moving. I mean, look at how the Grand Canyon was formed, how, I mean, just the power that it holds. I mean, and when we think about our emotions, when I really like to like hone it into like our emotions, because I mean, we cry when when we're sad and upset, and you know, um the water is not always really smooth and calm. Sometimes
no, it's not.
it's boiling, and sometimes it is crashing, and sometimes it is,
Sometimes
gonna
it's
hold you.
slamming up against things. It's not
Yeah.
just crash, right? Like, I think we've
It'll
all
hold
seen
you
that
down, man. It'll
slam.
suck you in, just like we can get sucked into our emotions and sucked into our
Hmm.
negative feelings and stuff, which can be great tools. They can be great tools, because if we don't have the crashing waves of the turbulent ocean, we don't stir the nutrients. And when I talk about stirring the nutrients, that's also giving opportunity for us to act as the filters for that which isn't serving us anymore, that's getting dredged up with the crashing waves or whatever you have going on in your life that could somehow relate to water. It it's going to dig up stuff that you forgot about. It's going to dig up stuff that you never quite thought about, or maybe even couldn't perceive to begin with, but maybe you had to go through some of that other sediment before you got to the deep down nitty gritty stuff, because some of us got enough of our own stuff going on, let alone thinking about lifetimes ago or generations ago. But yet, for many of us, it seems to come up anyways. And then it gives us the opportunity to either use our own transmutation tools to be our own solvents, using the own salt of ourselves, because I mean, it all goes to the ocean, and the ocean is very solvent. It's got a lot of salt in it, right? I mean, even, other fresh waterways, of course, do as well, but um, that salt water will purify along with sterilize and things like that to allow things to coexist a little bit better in certain areas, you know? But we can really be the purifiers, be the reeds, be what filters, you know, or even be the flowers, being the lotus flowers, being stuck in the mud and living in the water and sucking up all the nutrients from the muck that we've been set into. And yeah, sorry, I could rant for days.
No, that's great. That's
No,
perfect. Thank you.
it was. Yeah, stirring the nutrients. That one really.
Mhm.
Kim, how'd you feel about that one? I was like,
I, I really like that because you know what? Everything has its own piece, just like you was talking about purifying, because just in a creek, that water it might be dirty that's upstream, but it's the going across the rocks and filtering it through the dirt and all that stuff purifies it and makes it back where it in its natural state, of cleanliness to be able to drink it. So that's what I was thinking, like everything has its own process, and even though it's like the crashing and all this stuff, but it carries energy too. It carries energy as well as like we do, and it's got to release it. It's just got to have that equalness of yin and yang, as well. So,
everything is all about the balance, right?
hmm
I think it's a beautiful representation of how everything works together, you know, in our world. I
yeah,
mean, because it's just a
cohesion.
small piece. And when you look at how water works with everything in the world and you look at all the other things that work with water, it's like, wow, this is like the most beautiful orchestration of things I've ever experienced thus far in this lifetime.
Yeah. I think what really got me there was when I read that Emoto book. I always forget his first name. I think it's because I don't pronounce it very well. Ma Emoto is the name I remember. The Emoto
Dr.
book where
Emoto.
yes, that's all I remember because that's the name I can pronounce, Dr. Emoto. Have you read that book or do you know about it where
I know
he
about Dr. Emoto. He did the studies on,
yeah.
he put the words on the water and then would test it frozen.
Okay.
And
He's
Yeah.
yeah, he's the one who created I just remember the snowflakes. That was the one that was so great to me was he would play like heavy metal music, he would do the words, he did all these
yeah,
different experience experiments with water and the snowflakes would have all kinds of different literal emotions in them. And that was super duper cool. Do you have a fur baby joining us?
I
Oh,
do. This is Skittles. He's probably just out of,
Skittles.
how cute. She feels
Aw.
all the energies.
he's
She,
my little baby.
he.
Yeah.
He Skittles,
Yeah.
that is
Are
too
you big
cute.
baby? Yeah.
So I
He,
have a fun question for you, Miss Brandy.
yes.
What does it mean to you to be awake?
Ooh. What it means to me to be awake. Well, I would have to say being awake is, well, I think there's degrees to it, obviously. But to be awake is to be aware of the fact that, you know, you are your own being on your own specific personalized path, and that everyone else is too. And that we are going to have these human experiences, and that we're, you know, understanding that it's not always necessarily super personal, that this life, all of the things that are happening is temporary and also incredibly enriching for your soul. And um I guess having a perspective of, you know, that everybody matters, even if really in your reality you're the one that is calling the shots in your life, and how your game is played, right? And just understanding that it's so much bigger and so much more complex than we could ever truly imagine, and realizing that the possibilities for expanding in our curiosity and our wonderment is never ending.
Well
It's
said.
eternal.
Yes, very true. Because just about the time you think you've got it, then you learn something else beyond that. And it's just like, wow, it just puts a lot of things in perspective. However, we
Yeah.
don't grow weary, we don't grow bored with it, because there's just more to learn, more
Right?
to
How could you get
understand.
bored? There's too much to learn.
Yes. So what do you suggest for people that are becoming awake, in that process? What do you suggest that they like start doing, and things like that? Where would you think they would should start? Or
Well, the first thing I would say is to remember to be kind to yourself, and that your work, that your inner healing and your things that you're dealing with in your life are paramount. The things that are happening in your life, in your waking life, that is what's begging your attention. And those things are important, even outside and inside of your spiritual journey. Um, that you don't have to choose between the 5D and the 3D when you choose your own authenticity, when you choose to broaden your own perspective and experience your life without shame, without guilt, without self depreciating thoughts, and adding in negativity that really gets you stuck in your head. Um, I'd say the best place you can start is within.
yeah.
And when I say within, researching and looking up things that really pique your interest, that bring you closer to home, to yourself, and ground you in a way that doesn't make you feel fearful, that doesn't make you feel shameful, that um, that allows you to feel that spark of not just curiosity but wonderment for life and for the world, and to explore the topics that you really feel drawn to, regardless of what other people might say, regardless of what you think people around you might feel about what you're doing or think about what you're doing, if they might talk about it. It doesn't matter. Follow your joy. Follow the spark of your excitement, of your curiosity, because those are going to be the things that lead you to the place where you feel the most fulfilled and where you feel the most connected. Because you can have you can hear about conversations and indulge in things like podcasts and other types of topics and things like that to the point where you are like, whoa, I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know how to feel about this, because honestly, it's a lot. It's so easy to get bombarded with what you should do, what you should think, how you should feel, what you should be doing with your life, blah, 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 blah. When everybody's path is different. And so my path, what that looks like for me, it's going to look completely different for somebody else. And that's okay. That's fine. I think that that is the beauty of this holographic virtual reality game that we've got going on for all of us. And that when you work on yourself and your mess, your mud, your muck, and allow yourself to shine through and then explore with that, you can't go wrong. Not at all. Not at all. The world will be your oyster at that point.
Well said. Very well said.
I think you are absolutely spot on, and Bashar seconds us, or we second Bashar, whichever way you want to look at that. Follow your joy, right? Isn't that what
Not
Bashar?
channeling, but
Yeah, isn't that what Bashar says all the time as well? Which before I even heard that, I was exactly on your page, and I call it whatever makes your heart sparkle.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
what makes your heart sparkle?
But don't be afraid of the dark either. Let your heart
Right.
sparkle, but bring that sparkle with you as you explore the depths. Because, I mean,
Hmm.
I'm very much a depths girly. I mean, water and all that. Gotta get down deep into the.
Well, we
Yeah.
have to explore all that, because we are light and dark. We are light beings, but there is darkness out there, and that's what the contrast is that we need to.
Yes,
That's why one of the reasons we've come down here for many reasons, but one of the reasons is for that contrast and to
absolutely.
transmute that dense energy into the light, but also just experience it as well.
What
Yeah.
happens when we don't?
Oh. Well, then it becomes its own thing that gets to run what it runs your life. I feel like if we let our shadow sides and the shadow things in our lives, the
What
things
is
that
shadow work?
ooh, shadow work is dealing with the unconscious and the subconscious within you, the the dark, heavy, emotional stuff that either you have experienced as a soul or that you have experienced as a human in your life, and learning to bring light to it or befriend it. Because, we all have darkness within us, and not all darkness is bad. Not all darkness is something that needs to be transmuted. Sometimes it just needs to be accepted and honored for what it is, because we can't, in this dualistic experience, have one without the other.
Right. 100%. It's that duality.
But if you let it run you, it will run you, and it will take you places that you wish you'd never been. Sometimes I think that's the point of this life, because I have certainly many, many times lived in my shadow self, and I spent years there, living in fear, living in shame, living in guilt, living you know, in these thought processes that weren't serving me, that I was living through my trauma and living through my fears and not wanting to lose things or lose people, and um not allowing myself to feel the joy that comes with the duality of life. And I think that often people tend to live, when they live in that, they don't really tend to live from a perspective that's like, um, seeing things as they really are for them. They see them as just this really heavy, dark cloak of something. This could happen to me. Somebody's going to hurt me. Somebody's going to do this, or it's all going to go to shit. And I'm going to feel like this no matter what, or I just have to keep avoiding this so that I avoid the pain of the past, and that's no way to live. And sometimes the pain is what will bring forth that which is new. And I use that as like a reference to birth, being somebody who's given birth several times. It's probably my favorite um, analogy for it, is that sometimes you have to work through that deep dark pain that we all avoid, because who wouldn't avoid it? Because it can be really hard, it can be scary, and it can be incredibly painful to endure, and that's why so many people don't.
Hmm.
And I think that we see a lot of people walking around living in their shadows.
I
Yeah.
think people don't even know what that is.
Right.
I don't think they do either, but I think that they're starting to. um
I
I
think that
maybe not.
most people don't know what it really means to be awake. I think they have, I don't know what they think. I don't even want to surmise that, because you know me, I'm just a question asker. Seems, um, but I mean, I feel like people just, I think they don't realize, and I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. When I was living through living life through the filters of my trauma, I totally didn't even realize, number one, what those words meant, much
Yeah.
less what that looked like. I couldn't
Yeah.
even fathom those words in my brain. What do you mean living through a filter of trauma? What does that mean? Can you make that make sense to me? I sincerely didn't. And I probably, whole lot of honesty, if you would have said those words to me, I probably would have gotten a little defensive. Like, what the fuck do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Like, I would have had some tude behind my tone of voice, right? And probably a cuss word or five, because I cuss regardless. But anyway, and I would have been like, what? Seriously, what do you mean by all that? Like, what? And then to actually, so if you are in that state, and I'm just thinking back to myself, like, how would I have received that information? And then where do you go from there? And because, like I said, I didn't even understand what those words meant, much less so because I didn't understand what those words meant, I couldn't wrap my head around it to go, oh, gee, yeah, of course I am.
Sounds like feels like an affront, doesn't it? At first, it's like, but I
Yeah.
think that that's just what happens because when to some to
So
some
where do you
extent,
start?
you got to crack it open a little bit to get to the meat. And
Yeah.
and I think we've all kind of had that experience where we got cracked and our ego was like, "Bro, what was that? What
Can't
the
be attacking
fuck?
me. What? What?
What the fuck was that?" Right? You got hands like
What? Oh my God. Throw hands. Yes. Oh gosh,
I
I
know,
forgot
right?
about that.
Because I've been there. I've been there. I've been called out before, and it's like, ooh. And at first, it was like, no, you're full of it. No, no. And then later on, it kind of sinks in, but I think it takes years, and some people may get that good old knock on the ego to crack them open a little bit, and they may never come back around to that particular circumstance because it was so hard
It was
to
too
deal with.
much.
Right, it
Hmm.
could be, but it also allowed for things to get let in that, because we all get opened up to our own pace, you
Mhm.
know? I mean, I don't think I could have been here any earlier I than I if I wanted to. Even if I tried, I don't think I could have been in this particular knowing any sooner. And if anybody had
Mhm.
tried, I don't think it would have worked. I think that I would have ended up just like, no, you're going to turn me off to all of this because absolutely the fuck not. I will not be doing any of that.
Right.
Why would I sign up for that? Because
And
it's
then
a lot. It's a
and the
lot.
diff yes. Yes. I agree. I agree. Kim, in my world, we call it, I like Brandy's. I like hers, you get cracked because that's that's a great, I like that one. I call it, drop. I do. I like
Right?
it a lot. Because it's a great analogy. I call it drop in your basket.
Hmm.
That's what I call
Like,
it. Yeah. You drop your basket. You're not
yeah.
right anymore. And so you got to figure, but I like yours too, and when you drop your basket, all your stuff spills out, and you got to figure out what you're putting back together and what you're picking up and carrying on with and what you're leaving behind, right? But I like yours too because I like the crack analogy of, man, you kind of get cracked. Guess what? The light shines in, buddy.
I always get this vision of like getting cracked on the head and it cracking a little bit. And you know how they say, open your mind, your brain won't fall out. That's what I
Humpty
envision.
Dumpty, dude.
You know? Exactly. And I think we've
That's
all
good.
had those moments where Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great big fucking fall.
Yeah,
And all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't do shit to put you back together again because that was your job.
True.
exactly.
It was
That's
their
true.
job to knock you over. It was their
Hmm.
job to make
And
sure that
some
all
of
the
those
shit happened.
pieces, you need to leave behind. You do not
Absolutely.
need to pick up all those pieces and carry them forward anymore. You can leave a lot right there.
Absolutely. And
That's
sometimes
why
it's
it's
so
your job to put
necessary.
yourself back together.
Yeah. Those tower moments
Mhm.
are important.
I think we
Those
just solved the riddle to Humpty Dumpty.
maybe.
I'm just saying, Kim, did you hear that? I think we just solved the riddle to Humpty Dumpty. Like all the king's horses, they couldn't put him back together again because it was his job. That's the part they leave out in the fairy in the thing.
Yeah.
Imagine if we oh my
They
gosh.
left that open for you to find that nugget.
Well, I was gonna say on the flip side, yeah, well, let's not talk about how long it took me to figure that out. Ouch. Uh, but on the serious on the serious, imagine though if we would have taught kids the reason they didn't put them back together again was because it's your job to put yourself back together. It's
Yeah.
okay to get cracked. It's okay to drop your basket. It's okay to go batshit crazy, whatever that looks like in your world, proverbial spin you want to put on it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely your job to put it back together.
It might not have been your fault that it all came crashing down, but it is still your life and your responsibility to
What?
do with it what you have the power to do with it with, and to move forward in a way that brings you joy
Hmm.
and purpose.
Yeah, you could choose either go down the path of struggle or the path of joy. And you have that option. That's the free will. That's your option to choose and which way you choose. I prefer to do the joy. I'm like, I've had enough of the others, you know.
Well, if you take the other one though, it might take you a lot longer, but sure as shit you're going to come out the other side having learned a lot. Because I've
That's
taken the
very
other
true.
way. I've taken the other way before.
Mm,
And
mm.
ooh, it is really cool. It's lots of fun. It can be lots of fun, but oh boy, it'll teach you so much stuff you never thought you needed to know. And, both paths are going to take you to the destination. It just might take a little longer to get to where you want to be if you take one versus the other.
Very true.
I think that is a beautiful place to wrap this up. I don't, I got nothing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, because it is your choice. Thank you. Um, will you come back again?
I would love to. That would be great.
Yeah,
Good,
awesome. Very
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you
good,
for
good, good.
inviting me.
Of
Again,
course.
I am so grateful that you chose to be here to I'm thank you for saying yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. Kim, my beautiful fill-in co-host, thank you for being here. I think you have the closing. You're going to step into that closing spiel for me because you're going to
Yeah,
be
so
so much
yes,
better at that
we
for me.
just anybody that has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, in the messages. We check the comments every so often and we will respond back. We will get the information from Brandilyn if she wants to, how to get a hold of her. And if you feel resonant with her, to be able to visit with her and kind of get some help on your awareness and so forth. But we ask that everybody subscribe to the channel because it's really important, because as a whole, we're actually out here to get the message out to everybody. And that's part of our purpose, is to get that message out. So we ask that everybody subscribe to the channel. If you feel the inkling that you want to come on, by all means, reach out to Ronnie. We would love to have other guests. We're very open to that. And we just look forward to that. And then if you have any questions, just reach out. And we thank everybody and be blessed.
And Brandy, if people do want to get a hold of you, what is the best way to get in touch with your friend?
Well,
Email?
I'm currently only on TikTok.
Okay.
You can find me. I'm Brandilyn Ray on TikTok. Don't have a lot going on. You're gonna just see some fun stuff and some random videos. I don't post very often, but feel free to reach out to me there, um, or follow me if you're interested in following my journey.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Everyone, again, thank you so much for being here. We greatly appreciate you, and we hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.